Most people have no idea how long it actually takes to build real wealth. They see 25-year-olds on social media flashing Lamborghinis and think they're falling behind. But here's the truth. The Federal Reserve tracks the finances of American households, and their data tells a very different story. The median net worth for Americans under 35 is just $39,000. That's the reality for half the young adults in this country. So if building wealth feels painfully slow right now, it's not because something is wrong with you. It's because the game is harder than anyone admits. And the sooner you understand the real timeline, the sooner you can beat it. Today, we'll break down when most people actually reach these three major money milestones: $100,000, $500,000, and $1 million. And more importantly, what separates the people who get there faster from those who never get there at all? The late Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's business partner for over 6 decades, once said the first $100,000 is the hardest. He wasn't exaggerating. At this stage, your money isn't doing much of the heavy lifting. You are. Every dollar saved is a dollar you earned, budgeted, and protected from impulse spending. Compound interest exists, sure, but on $10,000 or $20,000, it barely moves the needle. So when does the average person actually hit $100,000 in net worth? Based on Federal Reserve data and financial research, most Americans cross the $100,000 mark somewhere between their late 30s and early 40s. The median net worth for Americans aged 35 to 44 is about $135,600. That tells you the midpoint of that age group has just recently passed the $100,000 line. Meanwhile, those under 35 sit at a median of $39,000. That means, for a huge portion of the population, the entire decade of their 20s and a chunk of their 30s is spent just grinding toward that first 6 figures. Student loans, car payments, rent, and low starting salaries eat into everything. It's not a motivation problem. It's a math problem. And most people are fighting it with a spoon when they need a shovel. But here's where the story changes. Once you clear $100,000, something almost magical happens. Your money starts earning money at a pace you can actually feel. If your portfolio earns 8% in a year, that's $8,000 on $100,000. That's a real contribution, without you lifting a finger. At $50,000, that same return only gives you $4,000. At $20,000, it's $1,600. The math compounds, and it compounds in your favor. That's why the journey from $100,000 to $500,000 is often faster than the grind from $0 to $100,000. Not because people suddenly earn more, but because their money joins the fight. Now let's talk about $500,000. According to data from the Federal Reserve and reports from financial research firms, only about 10.5% of Americans between the ages of 18 and 39 have a net worth of $500,000 or more. For most people, the $500,000 mark doesn't arrive until their mid to late 40s or early 50s. The average net worth for Americans in their 40s is around $770,000. But the median, the number that actually reflects the typical person, is closer to $76,000 to $247,000, depending on whether you're in your early or late 40s. So, $500,000 by 40 is rare. It happens, but it puts you well ahead of 89% of your peers. Most people reach this milestone between 45 and 55, and a lot of that growth comes from home equity, retirement account gains, and the snowball of compounding returns that kicked in after $100,000. Here's a critical insight. Once your net worth hits $500,000, you're not just halfway to $1 million in dollars, you're roughly 75% of the way there in time. That's because compound growth accelerates. Going from $500,000 to $1 million with consistent investing can take as little as 5 to 7 years, compared to the 15 to 20 years it may have taken to build the first $500,000. And now, the big one, $1 million. The Federal Reserve tells us the average age of a millionaire in America is 61, and about 80% of millionaires are over 50 years old. The median net worth for Americans aged 55 to 64 is around $364,000. So, even in that age range, the typical household still hasn't crossed $1 million. It's the average that's above $1 million, and that average is pulled up by the wealthiest households. So, let's be clear, becoming a millionaire is not common, and it doesn't happen fast for most people. About 18% of U.S. households have a net worth of $1 million or more. That means roughly 4 out of 5 American families never reach this milestone during their entire lives. But here's the part nobody tells you. The people who do reach $1 million don't get there because of a single big break. They get there by doing boring things consistently for a long time. Maxing out their 401k, investing in index funds year after year, keeping their car for 10 years instead of 3, avoiding lifestyle creep when their salary goes up. They also understand the difference between looking rich and being rich. The household earning $200,000 a year but spending $195,000 on a big mortgage, luxury car leases, and designer clothes has almost no wealth. Meanwhile, the family earning $90,000 and investing $20,000 of it every year is quietly building a fortune. Net worth isn't about income. It's about the gap between what you make and what you keep. The 2026 401k contribution limit is $24,500 if you're under 50. If you're 50 or older, you can add another $8,000. And if you're between 60 and 63, a new Super Catch-up provision lets you contribute an extra $11,250. These aren't small numbers. Over 20 or 30 years, maxing out just your retirement accounts with employer matching and market returns can get you past $1 million almost on autopilot. The real question isn't whether you can reach $100,000, $500,000, or $1 million. It's whether you're willing to start the boring stuff today that makes the exciting stuff possible 10, 20, or 30 years from now. If you're in your 20s and you feel behind, you're not. You're on schedule. But the clock is ticking, and compound interest only works if you give it something to work with. If you're in your 30s or 40s and just now taking this seriously, you still have time, but you need intensity. Cut the waste, automate your savings, invest consistently, and stop checking your portfolio every day. If you got value from this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.